But what we realized is that when times were good, people were just purchasing and buying. And that doesn't necessarily mean dentistry. That's just all across the board. But our teams really need to embody that. And that's challenging because even some of our established practices, patients don't really look to help send more patients.
Marketing patients are the hardest patients to convert, get in the door, get them to accept treatment, get them to come back, get them to refer. You can totally do it, but they're harder.
So I think, in the strategy of marketing, we're going to spend the money doing things with like what your group does and digital marketing.
Welcome to another episode of Dental Marketing Go. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the founder of SMC National, where we help you create, convert, and close more new patients so you can grow the way that you want. And today I have a special guest, Dr. Himesh, who is part of Dental Depot, and they have a ton of practices down south. And he's going to share how he's grown his practice and what he's done to navigate the ever-changing algorithm of Google. You're going to want to hear this, and he's going to give you some really great insight that's going to help your practices grow like never before. All right, so why don't you tell me what you guys are experiencing that's driving the most growth for you guys?
Well, post-COVID, the market has significantly changed, right? And so we're seeing trends in markets and all kinds of different things from staffing and HR. And it's not a secret that HR, and human capital is a struggle in our industry, no matter what we do. And what we're having to do is, just like I have said for all the years I've been in business, that somewhere along the course of the year, you almost have to reinvent yourself. What worked last year probably won't work this year. You have to make some shifts to the model. Our biggest focus this last year, as we've realized that, there is going to be some turnover, people are going to skip to find the next better deal on the other side of the fence, right? We have really kind of focused in what we're kind of good at and kind of going back to leaning down kind of what we do. And the biggest thing we're looking at is going back and training. And what we spent is a lot more time training our doctors and our hygienists at that service model that really brings that patient to have a real experience. Because one of the things that you can't quantify well to the highest degree is an experience level, because it's a feel. But what we realized is that when times were good, people were just purchasing and buying. And that doesn't necessarily mean dentistry. That's just all across the board. And, post-COVID, the government printed trillions of dollars that made us feel comfortable. And that's now led to some, concerns and issues to all of us as we run our businesses. But I think going back and training our teams and spending time with them, really getting them to understand why, a service is needed to a patient becomes the most critical, because those moments are so important. And us all fighting for the same number of patients, the quality of the time spent is going to outweigh the quantity that we've kind of all had over the last few years.
Yeah, that's for sure. So you would say the biggest thing you're focusing on right now is the internal patient journey. Is that right?
Yeah, the whole from the time the patient calls to their greeting at their first greeting in our office, to their experience as they walk through and meet our hygiene team and our doctor team, all the way down to exit, right? And so, our goal is that they come in as a patient and they leave as family, is kind of our motto, and we've kind of lived with it. But our teams really need to embody that. And that's challenging in a time where there could be turnover and there are people shifting in, and we're trying to build culture. And I had a great discussion with somebody yesterday that is culture really what we think it is post-COVID, because the way that we fix culture is by throwing money at it, right? That's what we've done. I mean, we were paying more than we've ever paid. And that's our answer to culture, right? Because today, culture, I don't think, is what it was pre-COVID.
Sorry to disrupt the show, but I got something crazy to share with you. We are attempting to connect with all of our listeners. We have thousands of people that listen to this podcast, and we want to meet you in person. We have 4 events coming up, and I want to give you a discount code that you can use for the next week to save $300 off your ticket. The discount code is Gary Bird, and the link is going to be just down below. You can also go to smcnational.com/events. I hope to connect with you in person and help each other grow our businesses. Can't wait to see you soon. Yeah, no, it's definitely not. And it's definitely moved from an employee market to an employer market. It's moving back to now because of everything going on in the market. So let's talk about that, though, that you want these patients, that internal marketing, you want these patients to come in as new patients, but leave feeling like they're part of the family. How does someone practically do that? If someone kind of goes, you know what, I know that's the right thing to do, How do you even begin doing that or how do you guys build it? I know you built a referral program recently as well.
Right. We've kind of built an internal referral program. We're going back to grassroots, but really, ultimately, we've seen a shift, and hygiene's our biggest shift that we've seen in our dental environment. And with the higher compensation that we're having to now overcome, the only solution many of us figured out is to put additional patients on the schedule, right? So we've gone from a 6 or 7, 8 patient day model to 10, 12, 14 patient model. I heard a model from another group that they're incentivizing their hygienists to above 10 patients a day to get an additional 10 or 15 bucks per patient. Well, the challenge you have there is you're taking a model and you're shifting it to where you're creating revenue for sure, but you're not creating a relationship with the patient. Our typical hygienist sees about 6.2 to 6.4 patients a day, right? So we've kind of held true to the pre-COVID model, at least in our market here in Dallas. And what it's allowing us to do is we're giving the hygienist an enormous amount of quality amount of time to spend with the patient, right? With wellness scans, education, airway, head and neck exams, really making sure that when they leave our clinical team, they've had a full-blown experience, right? And I think we NPS score our sites. We Google, obviously, we reach like most groups do. But I think going back and allowing that time is what is happening. That's helped. Like all of our patients get wellness scans through the iTero. They really get a good education on their own. And then what happens is a consumer will then make a buying decision based on their feel, right? Most of us do purchases on emotional decisions. And as long as our teams understand that, then we can actually have these discussions that's what's well for the patient. We never drive revenue. What we drive is really clinical health, and it really drives the revenue itself.
Got it. Okay. So, what's and then inside of that, part of that is your patient referral program that you launched?
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're just really incentivizing our patients with referring back to us. So we're kind of giving what we call a gift referral, where they can come use some depot bucks with us and get, towards toothbrushes and whitening and some ancillary services, and really allowing, our patients and our other team members to become the real source of referral. As you know, Google's the animal in the room or the elephant in the room, and we're all having to deal with their algorithm and how they track, and everybody's got the best answers to solve it, but everybody's all dealing with the same elephant in the room. And so we decided this last year, knowing that our spend for that is going to significantly increase, that the other way is to really go back and train our teams and having that experience and letting our patients know we're growing, because even some of our established practices, patients don't really look to help send more patients. So we actually created campaigns that, hey, help us grow. We love you. And so we've created some internal things. We've just rolled that out in this last quarter. And we're starting to see an uptick in new patients, right? And so I recommend always internal program. I think you said it in one of your lectures here earlier this year that I attended. The same kind 100%. Of concept.
Yeah. So the internal patients, the thing that most people don't realize and where we sometimes take for granted, is that marketing patients are the hardest patients to convert, get in the door, get them to accept treatment, get them to come back, get them to refer. You can totally do it, but they're harder. Patient referrals, someone else is doing the selling for you. They don't care if you schedule them a little bit further out. If you happen to miss the call, they'll call back. If they no show for the first appointment, they'll show up for the next one. They'll accept more treatment on the first. I mean, basically the way I look at it, every two or so marketing patients is worth about one patient referral. And it's just such a better way to drive a dental practice. And then what you want to do is then add marketing on top of that to fill in the gaps where needed, because now you need more volume because you hired a new associate. So that's where it kind of gets tricky, is like, hey, we just opened a new office, it's not doing too hot, or we just hired a new associate and they need 40 more new patients a month. Patient referrals can't solve that, right? Like it doesn't.
And you kind of look at it. Most of us that have been running businesses and practice for a long time kind of just need to go deeper into the well and dig for solutions, because look what happened pre-2007. Like before all the digital media became where it was, how were we running our businesses, right? We were running them off, a pseudo kind of a website, which wasn't a big deal back in the early 2000s. And then it was the Yellow Pages, right? And so you look at how we got patients to the door then you kind of dig deep, and you really did it internally. You did it with just asking your patients, things like our docs. We were asking our docs now to send thank you letters for new patients that they might see with additional referral card dropped in to say, hey, we're growing and loved having to see if there's any other friends or family that you want. Here's a great referral card for us. I mean, and those things are so low cost. So I think, in the strategy of marketing, we're going to spend the money doing things with like what your group does and digital marketing. But, the other problem is a challenge that we all have is that we can have all the digital marketing and external marketing and bring a patient to the door and absolutely just screw that up. Right.
Yep.
So
100%.
we think internal up and outside in creates a kind of a symbiotic relationship and an environment where that patient really wins. And, we don't get it right 100% of the time, but boy, we're sure really trying. And just to your point in the past, I mean, every Google review, positive or adverse, is responded to. And I mean, groups are doing this. I mean, we're not sending, we don't have any magic potion. But what I do think is that you've got to do things and you got to consistently do them and you got to do them well. Right? Don't try to be everybody for everyone or everything for everybody, but try to stick to the 5 or 6 things that you do well and then grow from it. Right? And I've been known to do 100 different things to try to think what sticks at the wall. Right? I mean, that's just how I run. And I, 1, drive my team crazy. 2, it's pretty expensive. And 3, what you realize is you dig deeper and you come up with a plan that works better.
Yep. Yeah. And I think the big thing is that dental. So other industries have dealt with this forever, right? This has been an ongoing problem in other industries, and everybody kind of knows it in those industries because it's the norm. In dental, this is not the norm. It's the norm everywhere else, but this is now becoming the new normal in dental is like, hey, it's super competitive. We can't just say, yeah, we're dentists and we went to school and the doors flood open. You know what I mean? Like it can happen sometimes, but usually not. And then you have to get better at marketing and then once you get better at marketing, then you're like, wait, what makes us different? Why are, all the stuff you're talking about internally, it really starts to click. And when you get everything firing on all cylinders, it feels really good. Like it feels really good when you go, I got it. Okay, now we got it. And then now we did talk about this before I hit record. We were talking and the one thing where I think that people get messed up, especially at like the executive or the director level is you were mentioning, executives are trying to pull levers and say, let's just grow this marketing at scale. The problem with dental is that's different than a Tesla or an Apple where, we think of these great companies and their amazing marketing. They're marketing globally with a distribution system to get their products out globally. Right. Dental is only done locally. You can't do it globally. It's impossible. So you're only influencing this little circle around your office. Once you figure out that office, then you have to move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And every time it's a little bit different. It is. And sometimes there's pour over, right? Sometimes you can say, okay, we know our site should look like this because it works really well in almost every market. But there's always nuances. There's always different services and different times that they're open and all those kind of things.
Right. And we get to kind of look at this because we're in 4 different markets, right? 5 different markets, 4 states. We're in some highly desirable markets. Our group's very doctor owned, a DSO. And so we get to kind of measure different markets, whether it's Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Dallas, it's Kansas City, or Phoenix, right? We get to kind of see, hey, what's working in one market and not another, because each market does have uniqueness to itself, right? And different demographics, different thought processes, thought logics. Phoenix is different than Kansas City. Kansas City is different than Dallas. Right?
Different ages of people. Some are going to be younger. Some different income levels. All that stuff. Right.
So it's the challenge that when you're in a DSO like ours, and we're a big branded DSO with Dental Depot with Dr. Glenn Ashmore started in the 70s. And so we're kind of a slow growth, kind of a methodical group, fully doctor owned. But what we do have is a luxury of being able to bounce things off of the different groups and the different cities to see, hey, this is working well versus not, just like any other group that's kind of diverse, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. This is great insight. I know the people that are watching this that have kind of gone through the ringer, but they're a little bit before you in their journey. They're not quite as far as you've come. I know these kind of things are very, very helpful. And I would like to pose this question to you to kind of pick your brain with the final question.
Sure.
If you were imagine you're in a stadium, you have 30,000 dentists in there. They all are kind of at that like 3 to 5 offices, but they all want to go to like 50 is their goal. But and I know that there's like a 10 threshold that everything changes, and then 25 and everything changes, and et cetera, et cetera. Right. What would be your message around growth for them? They're like you, they want to grow. They're going to keep growing no matter what. Right. What would be your message to them to help them keep pounding away?
Well, I think there's a lot of challenges, right? I think we all have the innate ability that want to do something. We can kind of see the vision, 5 and 10 years out. The challenge is the runway to get there isn't fully designed, right? One of the things I learned is we kind of went from, even in the market that I manage here in Dallas, going from, 1, 2, 3, 4, we've got 7 now here in Dallas, and continue to grow. And our model is a little bit different. Our footprint's about 5,000 plus square feet per practice. So our practices, and we own all the real estate. So our model is a little different. So we don't know that it's an appetite for everyone. But what I would tell anyone that's in this space is that when you get that 3 to 5 kind of area, that's kind of your breaking point. That's kind of the bottom of the J curve. If you can kind of break through the J curve through this, right, it is, and it's partly planning, it's partly process. It's really having a runway of money, right? Because what's happening is you're basically stealing from Peter to pay Paul. And we were all going to feel it. We've all been through it. I've been through it. My partners have been through it. Right. And so what happens is that you've got growth occurring, but you've got expenses behind it. And, to the outside world, they see the 95% that everyone else sees, but the 5% you're living every day, right? Have some allies and coaches and some things. And the first thing I would say is anybody doing it, get some mentors, get some help, right? Early in the game. Don't feel like you have to do it alone. There's a lot of folks doing it. But that 3 to 5 is the J curve. If you can manage your way through it, right, because the expenses do outweigh costs early in that game. Once you get to that 6, 7, 8, it starts to blend out. The revenue starts to catch up, and you can start to move forward a little bit. But I would say be conservative in your process for the first 3 to 5 to 7, and then get to that growth stage where you've got your processes built out.
That's so good. That's gold. That is amazing. Because you don't know what you don't know, right? And all we do is we listen to these people who have 1,000 locations. They have different problems than we have at 50 locations, and you have different problems than someone who has 20 locations, and that's different than the guy that's starting his first practice in a second. So that is golden advice. I really, really appreciate you coming on today and sharing all these gold nuggets with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Gary. Hopefully we'll do more.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.